Welcome to Streams of Income with self-help author Ryan Rieger. For the next hour, you'll hear proven methods for how to live the multiple income streams dream. Ryan is passionate about helping others discover their gifts and start their own business. He's published 5 books, and his courses and group coaching programs have changed the lives of thousands of students all over the world. Ryan's books include Private Label, The Easy Way, Finding Your Grace Place, and his latest, Streams of Income. And now, here's your host, Ryan Rieger.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Streams of Income radio show. I'm your host, Ryan Rieger, and today's episode is with Joe Hayes. So Joe has hit the 1 million mark in just 15 months of selling on Amazon. Pretty incredible. It's just an amazing feat, but Joe's story is awesome because he was able to quit his job. I love bringing to you guys stories of people that are doing this full time. He's been able to quit his full-time job because of this business. And I learned so much because he's selling shoes, and I heard about 2 new platforms I've never even heard of, didn't even know existed. But what's cool about this, guys, is that he's kind of found his niche. I feel like most sellers I talk to, they'll start like at one place, or they'll start really wide, and they'll find their niche in one place, in one type of category. Like in our Legends group, we have a lot of grocery sellers. That's their thing. They're just really good at groceries. We have people that are building a private label brand, and they just focus on that. We have people that focus on wholesale. Well, Joe has found his home with shoes. He's tried the Replens model, and he was selling canning tops during COVID and traveling all over the state of Texas, trying to find these tops for the jars, and did really well with that, but then just decided that's not the type of business he wanted to have. So he and his business partner decided just to focus in on shoes, and he's done an amazing job. And what I also love about it is that all his eggs are not in the Amazon basket. He's got 2 other platforms that he sells on a lot. And this is just a cool story. I love it. I love bringing to you people who are doing different things, and especially something I've never heard of. I love it. I've been around this business a long time and I've not heard of these 2 platforms. So you'll learn about those and just about how Joe was able to scale up to over $1 million in 15 months. Pretty amazing. Here's my interview with Joe. Joe, welcome to Streams of Income, man. Thank you so much for being on with me.
Thank you for having me.
It was fun. I love this. I love that. So audience members listening to this, his sister is my son's preschool teacher, and Callan loves your sister. So she's been a huge blessing to our lives because Callan's just learned a ton from her and Miss Emily. So
here.
It's awesome. But tell me, I want to hear about your story, your journey. We're super informal on this podcast. I just want to hear how you got into what you're doing, and just tell me your entrepreneurial business journey.
I'll take you back about three years. My wife and I moved back to the United States February of 2019.
Okay.
And I still had a full-time job at that point, and was working in Colorado.
Uh-huh.
My wife is Thai.
Okay.
And so as I was working my day job, my wife was she has always been an entrepreneur.
Uh-huh.
Ever since she was younger. As soon as she graduated, she never wanted to go work for anybody. She had set up her own Thai drink stands, coffee, Thai teas, and she had that for a while, and then she opened up a Thai meatball stand.
This was back in Thailand?
It was back in Thailand.
Wow. So that's why my son now knows how to count 1 to 10 in Thai, right? Because your sister's teaching him.
That's right. I was born and raised in Thailand. Ginger, I think Ginger my parents moved there when maybe she was 1 or 2 years old.
Okay.
And I'm a missionary kid. My parents were in Thailand for 33 years.
Wow.
Yep. And so, but to give you that context of my wife, Chip, and what she was doing is when we moved back to the States, or moved to the States her first time, I had recommended, maybe she should get into a Thai restaurant,
mm-hmm.
or just do something basic like that most Thai people would want to do. And she had no desire.
No way.
To go work for anybody else. And so she just I mean, to give you more details, hopefully no law enforcement or anything can pick us apart 2-3 years later. But I was actually on a trip in Thailand, a work trip, and at that point, she had an international license, but had never driven in the States. And so I had told her, I don't want you to drive. And we hired a young kid who was, I think, between school, just graduated high school and was in between semesters in college.
Okay.
To drive her up to the outlets in the Denver area. And that lasted for about 2 days. And she said, he doesn't seem like he's enjoying it. And then she just kind of went quiet, didn't really tell me what she was doing. Well, I come back I think it was about almost a 2-week trip, come back to find out she just jumped in the car and was driving up to Denver every single day.
Oh, you were at work?
While I was in Thailand.
Oh, you were in Thailand.
And so, never driven the United States.
Oh my gosh.
From Colorado Springs all the way to Denver.
That's a trip.
With
Wow.
all the construction and everything going on in the I-25 corridor and all that. And she's just determined that she was going to do it on her own. So, and it was probably better I didn't find out until I got back to the United States.
Right.
But that's what leads into me and where I got started is, so once I got back, I started taking her to the outlet malls when I could. Then when she got comfortable enough to drive on her own, she started doing that every day on her own. But in the evenings after work or on the weekends, I would still take her up to, there's about, I want to say 3 outlets in the Denver area. And I couldn't just sit in a Coach store, MK, or Kate Spade store. It was pretty boring. So I was talking to a friend of mine in Wisconsin who I knew had been selling on eBay for probably about 10 years. And I knew he had been flipping shoes on eBay and a couple other platforms. So there was a couple Nike and Adidas outlets at the different outlets. So I just asked him, hey, where do I need to start? How do I start? And he walked me through the process step by step. And that's when, it took me a while. I was still a little bit hesitant and scared to buy anything. And I think my first sale, it was about 4 days after that initial purchase.
Wow.
I only made about $10 maybe, but that's what got me hooked.
Yes. That first sale. I always remember that first sale.
This really works.
And that was on eBay.
And my first sale was on a platform called StockX.
Okay.
I believe StockX nowadays you can price it shoes, purses, watches, trading cards, game cards. But I started with shoes. And after that first sale, I got more comfortable and a little bit more greedy and started going a little bit deeper and deeper. And at that time, the Adidas Ultra Boost was doing really well. So cleared out the shelves there and was started really well. I mean, within a month's time, and started looking at the profits I could make, and this is interesting.
Yeah. What on those shoes? How much were you making profit on those?
I wasn't accepting anything less than $25 per pair.
Yeah.
And I was buying them anywhere from 50 to 100. So margin fluctuated a little bit, but I was happy with my full time.
Yeah. So on that platform, you got the order and you'd had to ship it to your customer?
No. So on that platform, you ship it directly to StockX.
Okay.
They authenticate the shoe to make sure it's not a replica.
Oh, nice.
And then from there,
So they have a fulfillment by Amazon type of program
where it's great because actually once they pass it through as an authentic Nike or Adidas, there's no returns. And
that's awesome for the seller.
for the seller. And then there's no communication with the buyer also between the buyer and the seller.
And that platform's still going right now?
Yes, it's still going. It's actually it's in the news quite heavily over the last couple of days because Nike is suing StockX, claiming that they've sold some fakes, and there's StockX has created some NFTs of Nike shoes that they're selling on their platform, and so Nike was suing them for selling these Nike.
Do you still sell on that platform?
Yes, so I still sell to this day. So I mean, to this, I'm sure we'll get a lot.
Oh, sure. Yeah, just this is why I talk about, like, who knows what direction the interview is going to go, because now I'm like, ooh, StockX, what's that? Because now other people are going to be like, hey, I want to learn about that platform too. But keep going. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, every morning when I go to the outlets, I always take about 15 to 30 minutes initially to look for shoes for eBay, StockX, and another platform called GOAT, which is very similar to StockX. And that's more of where your hype shoes are, expensive Air Jordans, Adidas Yeezys.
Yeah.
Those kind of higher end signature shoes are sold. So that's what I spend about the first 30 minutes every morning doing that. Yeah. And so, yes, I still sell on all three platforms, and I've really grown my eBay over the last 6 months, where I'm doing the best I've ever done on eBay. So.
That's awesome. Wow. So when did you, so you were started on stock. When did you get into Amazon?
So I didn't get into Amazon until the fall, end of the summer 2020.
Okay.
And so what happened during those drives between Colorado Springs and Denver, I was listening to a lot of podcasts. And I've always been interested in getting on Amazon. My current business partner, specific to Amazon, has been in the private label space for many years, and had told me about private label and seeing if I was interested in it back when I was living in Thailand. I never ended up. I took a few courses, never ended up pulling the plug and starting. But when we got back here, I started. As I was already telling you, flipping shoes on those different platforms, I was thinking, man, I bet Amazon, it would be more scalable, and we could do something even larger volumes with the products that we're finding in the outlets. So I came across, I think it was I forget what episode it was, but with Jimmy Smith and Jim Cockrum talking about replens.
Yeah.
And I sent it to my business partner, Matt, and I said, hey, you got to check this out. And he's always been interested in different ideas. And like I said, he was already selling on Amazon. We had talked about potentially going into business together back then. And I said, this might be a good start for us. And that was the fall of 2019.
Okay.
So, come December 2020, I resigned from my full-time job and chose DFW as our next destination because my sister and my parents live in Roanoke, Texas.
Oh yeah.
And I'd done research. It was either between Phoenix, Arizona, or Dallas with all the outlets and discount stores. I felt like
you chose this location because of a big reason was because of the outlet stores.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
We had come down to do a trip just to make sure, and especially because back then my wife was doing really, really well with Coach. And so we wanted a good location for her with, there's three Coach outlets. And so DFW was one of those locations that had the most, and we had understood that, and just by visiting them, that their rules were a little bit more friendly to resellers as far as allowing her to buy a little bit more volume than they were up in Colorado.
Wow.
So we figured with our family living here, with all the outlets and discount stores, this would be a great landing spot for us.
That's awesome.
One of the other issues was the weather in Colorado was just, I think the last year we lived there, there was an 8-inch snowstorm on May, I want to say it was May 20th.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And we fine. But what happens there in Colorado Springs is they close off the I-25 corridor up to Denver when
You can't get to the outlets.
you can't get to the outlets. We only lived there for, it was one full year, and just in a year time, my wife lost 2 weeks of work because they had closed down I-25. And so, we knew that wasn't going to be a good option if we were both going full time into this. And so, I guess backtrack a little bit. I sent that podcast to Matt, and and then I had told him about moving down here, and so we had agreed to start the operations together. I think it was the end of February, and then what was that? 10 days later, the world ends.
Yes.
And so then this was I think it was 6 weeks after I just quit my, a little bit more, but I guess I just remember it being about 6 weeks to 2 months from when I resigned to all of a sudden realizing, what am I going to do? I'm not making a full-time income, and I can no longer go to outlet malls. What am I doing with my life? And it was, I think a month and a half or so in Texas.
Yes.
They were closed down. So
man,
it was a little scary, but
probably a lot of time on your knees then, praying, Lord, help me.
I started flipping used shoes. I would buy used sneakers on eBay, Poshmark, Mercari, flip them up a little bit, and flip them back on those same.
That's awesome.
During that 2 month period while we were waiting for the outlets to open.
Yeah.
But all that to say, because we hadn't started our Amazon business, we had just, agreed to the terms and everything. How we were going to split everything up about, as far as I was going to do the shopping there, his family was going to do the prepping and shipping. We had never gotten started. And so we held off. We didn't, not knowing that at that time, people were doing volume on so many different essential items, but not knowing what we know today, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And we ended up not starting until I think it was we started shopping about the end of July, and then our first shipment was in August. And we just I did not like shopping in grocery stores looking for refunds. And even just, I know you can do, there's many categories.
Oh, sure.
I didn't enjoy that.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to do shoes and sports apparel.
Yeah.
We were still gated at that time.
Okay.
And we didn't know that what we know today, that maybe it's a little bit easier to get ungated than we had thought. And we just figured, let's just do this for a while. We'll keep doing the replen thing, and eventually Amazon will ungate, auto ungate us. Well, again, it was October, and I was impatient. We had taken a trip down to College Stations at that time, and I don't mind sharing, because if people are still selling them, please do. But we had hit it big on canning lids.
Oh yeah.
So we were hitting all these podunk Dollar Generals around.
That's awesome.
All the way, I'd gone all the way down to the San Antonio area.
Wow.
At one point, picking up all these canning lids, and it was just, and that was great. You get the endorphin high of finding all this, and it's going to sell well, and it's flying off the shelf. But as we were driving back from College Station, I just told my partner, I said, I can't
do this anymore.
I can't continue looking for silly lids and things in Dollar Generals and grocery stores. I know it works, and I know many people who have a huge and successful business doing it. It's just for us, and he agreed, for us, we just needed to find a niche or a space that we really enjoyed doing, because it's hard work.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time. So we decided then on that trip back, let's just figure out how to get ungated in these major sports and shoe brands. And so we put our Amazon business on hold. And so we did it August, September, October, put it on hold. And then we finally got ungated in about 6 or 7 brands, and it was about the last week in December, I think, middle of December.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of where the journey.
That's awesome. I feel like that's a lot of Amazon sellers they try a bunch of different stuff and then just kind of figure out their niche as they go. It just kind of takes jumping in there, trying one. No, this is not my thing. No, not my thing. This right here is my thing. I want to do this.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how we got started in shoes and sports apparel.
And that's primarily all you sell on Amazon right now?
That's current. Yes.
Yeah.
We still have a few replens. We focus on regularly. I shop about 4 outlet malls in the DFW area and 1 sports and outdoors store that's a national chain, and then another national chain that sells all sorts of products.
Yeah. That's awesome. And you're still selling those other places, StockX and GOAT?
Yes. And then that's my own personal business. Is
okay.
eBay, StockX, and GOAT. Amazon is the partnership.
If you could have, so like as a percentage, let's say, Amazon is what percentage of your, I know that you, with Amazon, you're with your partner. How much does the GOAT and StockX, the other platforms, play into your personal total income compared to Amazon?
That's why I'm still doing it. I rely on the profits from eBay, StockX, and GOAT just to pay the bills right now.
That's awesome. So all that covers your bills.
All that covers.
That's awesome.
What I sell on those 3 platforms.
Wow. And is it close to what you were making in your other job?
Still not. Well, the last 2 months were actually exceeded it.
That's awesome.
If you average it out, it still didn't. So I mean, there's highs and lows, and then it all depends on how much. Well, number one, how much product is in store, and how much time I allot to those other websites. Whereas last year I was fully dedicated on just growing our Amazon business. Just went all in and really lived on a lot of savings. Just to make ends meet. Last year, while I wanted to grow it, I had a goal of I wanted to see if I could do $1 million in 1 year. We didn't quite hit it. Got pretty close in a calendar year. But I, in the end, it was worth it, and to be able to grow it that quickly to where we have, it's definitely worth the sacrifices that we all had to give.
Yeah. And so when I saw you just at Walmart the other day, you said you would hit 1 million in your Amazon business from that point on to the last year ago.
Yeah. So March 2021, March 2021 to March 2022.
That's incredible. And you just started shipping stuff at the end of 2020?
Exactly. I mean, really, because that's what we got started in the replens. I kind of don't, you count that, but as far as it was just, we put a pause all Q4, we didn't do any Amazon. So we really started it back up. It was the last week of December in 2020.
So really almost like your first year in business, you hit $1 million. That's incredible.
15 months to do it.
Jeez. Now, obviously, if you're selling shoes, your sale, that probably helps. And when we were selling furniture, I mean, you sell a piece of furniture for $500. That's more than some canning lids at $10. So it takes a lot of canning lids to hit $1 million, less furniture. But still, that's amazing. Congratulations. Wow.
It was. And like you said, there's the ROI, the profit margins are a lot higher. Obviously the dollar amount is higher, but it's just that those margins for us with the smaller grocery items, we're calculating how much of this do we need to sell to make a valuable income for families. We figured I think we think we can do it a little easier with shoes and sports apparel.
Okay. give me an idea of like, I mean, I know you probably have some that like, wow, bought a pair for 50 and sold for 250. Probably really rare. So what is your sweet spot that happens a lot as far as how much you spend on a shoe and how much you make on a shoe?
We're looking for about, I mean, I try to stick to about 60% ROI.
Okay. That's awesome.
But I will go as low as 40 sometimes. And my sweet spot is in between 50 and 60.
So if you buy a shoe for $100, you want to be able to make 60.
Yeah.
That's incredible to be able to do that.
Yeah. And then looking, I mean, well, I would say our average is about a $50 buy right now. And again, I was telling you, I can't pull up my Amazon.
No, that's okay. Yeah. I think Amazon's being weird today.
I believe it's about $50. But yes, I'll buy up to 120, 130 if
okay.
Sometimes if the margins are right and if I'm checking Keepa and the sales and stats are there, then I'm okay with that. A lot of people they stick to lower price shoes. They're in the $30 to $60 range, but I'll go up to 130.
Yeah. Well, that's one way to differentiate yourself from the competition because not everybody has that kind of money to be able to spend on the inventory to begin with. So that's a kind of a really nice place to land because then you just have less and less people that are doing that.
Yeah. I mean, it's not all roses, definitely in shoes. I think we talked about this right before we went live, is there are returns with shoes and clothes that you have to add in there and make sure you're allotting for. Whereas the replens, we got very minimal returns. So there is that piece. And our returns are about, I believe it's right around depending on the month, about 13 to 14%.
Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah, not with the margins you have.
Not terrible. I mean, some months have been worse, but I think it's averaged about that.
When they come back to you, are you picking them back up and like cleaning them off and sending them back into Amazon or putting them on the other platforms?
We put them on eBay.
Yeah, that's good.
On eBay, I don't know how many or how much volume you ever did in shoes and apparel. Of course, you get
not much.
Okay, you get the customers, the dishonest customers that will send you a pair of their shoes that they wore for a year, ordered the same ones, and they kept the new ones and returned the old ones.
Yeah.
But it's not bad.
Yeah, that's rare.
It does happen, but not. I mean, we figure it's the cost of doing business on Amazon. We're not paying rent for a brick and mortar, and
exactly.
So it's definitely worth it.
That's so cool, man. So I'm trying to think what other questions the folks that are listening to this are going to ask. I mean, they would, if they were in person, they'd ask you like what brands and stuff. We don't need to go into that. I mean, obviously, I'm sure the Nikes and the Adidases they're right behind you. You can see Nikes on your screen there.
A lot of I was talking about the GOAT and StockX.
Yeah.
More where those go.
Yeah. And so though, when you go into a store, you're looking for more of the high end stuff for those platforms and then the regular everyday type of shoes for Amazon.
Yes. Yeah. Just your average run of the mill. The way I like to think about it is for Amazon, I'm looking for shoes that somebody in Nebraska or Idaho is going to be ordering, just your normal, regular American who's willing to pay a little bit of a premium for just a regular running shoe or walking shoe, whatever.
Yeah.
But the hype shoes, they're going more for the young crowd, or maybe somebody that wants to splurge a little bit on money and pay a ridiculous resale price for something that they couldn't do. I mean, some of these, this one right here is, I just got lucky on and found last year at an outlet, but it's reselling for $2,000.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Wow. So do you
I'm holding on to that for a little bit.
If you wanted to scale that side of the business, could you find a shopper in each of the areas of the country that have those types of outlets and say, here's what you're looking for, and I'll pay X amount of dollars every time one sells?
Yeah, you definitely could do that. I mean, there's all sorts of kind of similar to Amazon where there's OA versus RA. Same thing in the hype sneaker industry world is you can order these online where you can enter draws or go stand in line at a retail store and wait for the release. And so that's going to be a little bit harder to get those, but there is a way to do it. There have been people, or are a lot of successful people that have figured out hacks and ways to kind of game the system to have as many accounts and where they're able to get a lot of shoes on release. Or it's the same thing where you're building relationships with boutique shoe stores to be able, what they call in the sneaker community is the backdooring, where the owner of the shop is selling you a shoe that's not released yet. And so that's and you're having to pay cash for all that. That can't go through their computer system. You pay about $20 to $25 extra, knowing that on StockX, GOAT, or eBay, you could get anywhere from 60 to 200 more than what the retail is. So yes, there is a way. What we're already doing on Amazon, as you already said, it's with shoes and apparel, it's expensive with the inventory that we have, just buying between 60 and 100 and some dollars, where it's a lot to invest in $200 pairs of sneakers at volume to be able to grow it.
That's fascinating. So I've never talked to anybody that's on StockX and GOAT, and it's typically just the regular replens model, selling the normal stuff. And I have talked to folks that do shoes, but not those platforms. So that's very unique. Is that something you feel like is maybe not so newbie friendly, because you're going to have to spend $150, $200 on a shoe? And like, how is it hard to evaluate? Can you go back and look at past sales, closed listings?
Very similar. So that's how I got started, is just looking on all those platforms. You can, maybe not as in depth as Keepa is for Amazon, but on those GOAT, you can go back to look at the last 6 sales. On StockX, there's months and months worth of sold listings. Current listings. It's very similar to, again, Amazon, where you can click and see how many sellers are on on a specific item that you're looking at. The same way on StockX, you can see how many sellers there are and what price they listed at, to kind of gauge when you think that that shoe will sell, or how long you want to hold it for. And it shows, and I could be wrong, I think the reason they call it StockX is their graphs on the app look like a stock chart. And it shows you what the sales are, and that the history of the shoe.
That's awesome.
So you can see it, slowly creeping down or up, and kind of make your predictions through StockX.
So do you feel like that you could, if Amazon wasn't in your life, could you go all in on those platforms and do really, really well financially? Like, do you see the path forward to completely making, you said the last couple of months you exceeded what you earned at your job, but say a really good living just on those types of platforms?
Sure. Yeah. I know a few people that do it and earn like over $10,000 a month just doing what I do. I do it on a very small scale, because I allot most of my time to grow the Amazon.
If you wanted to do that, you'd have to go to you'd have to go to more stores yourself, or hire shoppers to go to those other stores. More
shoe conventions, build out more relationships, where I just have spent the time to build those relationships. Like I have a outlet store for Nike for the purposes of selling on Amazon. Where that's actually that shoe I showed you, or right here. That's how I got, that was through a relationship where I just walked in. I never go to this outlet I never start there. And it's the outlet closest to us. It's only 15 minutes away. And I normally drive down more towards where you live to start the day. And I ended up going there. I don't know. Again, maybe it's because of those shoes, but I walked in to Nike and the employee came over to me and just whispered, she said, "Hey, you need to go to the back room." And I just said, "Oh, okay." And what that meant was during the COVID lockdowns, and then a whole year after that, they were keeping all their expensive Jordans and retros in the back fitting room because customers weren't allowed to try on clothes during that time. And so they just ended up keeping all their expensive shoes back there. And you would have, as a reseller, you would have to go check back there to what they had in stock because they wouldn't on the floor.
Yeah.
So she gave me that signal. She said, go check out the back room. And I was so focused already at that point last year of just focusing on Amazon, and they hadn't had any good retros in a long time. And I'd said thank you and just kind of went towards the shoes that I would be shopping for Amazon. She noticed that and she walked back over. She said, "No, I'm serious. You want to go to the back room right now."
Oh my gosh.
So I said, "Okay." So
that's awesome.
Sure enough. So my wife was allowed to buy it because it's so rare, and they accidentally got those shoes. Nike accidentally sent them 20 pairs of this shoe. They're not supposed to be in outlets, and they didn't realize that or sold them before they got an email. At Nike asked them to send those shoes back, and the managers, had to email back and say, "Sorry, we've already sold them all."
Oh man!
So they weren't even supposed to be in the outlets.
And you got one.
We got two.
That's awesome.
I got one. My wife got a pair.
That's incredible. And you said StockX and Goat sell other things on there besides just shoes?
Yes, they sell. Goat sells sports apparel.
Okay.
Different things. Where StockX sells a little bit more. I forget. I don't even keep up with it just because I focus on shoes.
Sure.
But I know they sell game consoles like Xbox, PlayStation. Okay. They sell high-end watches. Your Rolexes.
Okay. And it has to be all brand new stuff.
Some of the stuff can be used on StockX, I believe, like say high-end purses, your Gucci's or Louis Vuittons, those can be used, I believe. And I believe watches, Rolexes and Omegas and things can also be used.
Okay.
But as far as shoes, it's got to be new shoes.
That's wild. I can think there's people right now listening, like, man, I want to try that out. I'll go there and just search and look for, see what's selling and go to my outlet and see if I can find some watches that I can flip.
Sure. I guarantee you there is.
Man, that's awesome.
There's money all around us. You just have to
absolutely
go out there and find it and be willing to put in the work to
sure. Yeah. So you were before we hit record, you were telling me about what your wife does with Coach. Can we talk about that? Because that's just so unique too. I love that.
Yeah. So how she got started. I think we talked about it at the beginning. Is she started selling Coach purses on Facebook Live. Her audience was all in Thailand, and she had a little setup in the room, made it look kind of like a boutique. Women's store, and would showcase the purses, bring them out one by one, talk about them, show them all the intricacies of the purse, price and whatever. And people on the Facebook Live would comment or ask, try to outbid each other or say, hey, I'll give you this price.
Is she doing this on her own personal timeline, or do you have a business page?
She had set up a Facebook business page. At that time. So through that, that only lasted about a month. And
somebody would bid, and then that person wins. So she'd have to ship it to Thailand.
And she would send it to her sister in Thailand, and then her sister would disperse it from there to that address.
Okay.
Through that, resellers in Thailand started reaching out to her, asking her if she could just shop in bulk for them.
Wow.
And for her, her margins are lower, but it's a lot easier. You don't have to get home and go on Facebook Live and sit on Facebook Live, because the time difference between America and Thailand, she would have to wait till late in the evenings
Mm-hmm.
to get on, and then early in the morning, our
Yep.
time in the States, to get on, so that she could get that audience
Yeah.
to sell. And so, she was out there shopping all day and then having to stay up late, wake up early to do these lives,
Yeah.
where once she got connections with resellers, she didn't have to spend that time doing that. And she at her best point, I believe she got 8 resellers buying from her directly. So she was
Goodness.
doing a lot of volume, and just it was
Wow.
yeah. And we did it.
And she's still doing that right now, right?
She's still doing that right
You
now.
mean, are you allowed to tell me, like, oh, I'm curious, like the margins before she sold to resellers, like how much, any idea how much she was able to mark them up selling to the individuals versus now?
I would hate to give you an answer. I would have to ask her, and she's not here.
Yeah, that's okay.
Um,
'Cause I wonder what other opportunities there are. My brother and sister-in-law run an orphanage in Guatemala, and they say that Levi's jeans are popular in Guatemala, and they think, if they had the time and energy, they could buy jeans from here and sell it there.
That's right. I mean, she's just kind of like me in shoes and just sticking to one niche. She's just stuck to this, whereas in the past, she sold vitamins
Okay.
from Costco.
Okay.
And with just, mass amounts of vitamins and gummies from Costco. She did
Wow.
different snacks, different brands.
Because I bet if I was her, I'd be telling the resellers, hey, I have access to all this stuff. What else do you want me to get for you besides just purses?
Exactly. Adidas apparel she was selling. I think Champion apparel. Trying to remember everything that she did. It's just it's that time versus money, and you can't.
Yeah.
There wasn't enough time in the day to be able to do anything. She's got a lot of ideas that we're still working through, as far as, can we hire people to do it for her so that she can grow to other brands.
Yeah.
So many, she's has so many ideas. Just
That's fascinating. Business is relationships. Once you got those relationships with those resellers, so those resellers, are they selling it online in Thailand, or do they have like little shops?
They have both.
Okay.
So yeah, I think a majority of it is online though.
Okay.
Yep.
Real quick, just thought of this real quick. Since you come from the missionary background, I'm always thinking about how to help missions with business. Do you think, like, okay, pretend you guys are still back in Thailand, you and your family, and you were missionaries there. Could a business like that be set up to where I here in the States ship you stuff like that you resell there to be able to fund your missions?
I think it could work. Yeah, I think you would just need to look at what country it is.
Okay.
Just make sure all their laws or regulations would not harm the end receiver.
Okay.
If it was a missionary, say, receiving that product, you would want to clear things through them to make sure that it would never hurt their ministry.
Sure.
Any type of enforcement
Yeah.
down on them. Whereas I think it's a little easier to deal local to local.
Okay. Yeah, for sure.
So if there were anything like that, it'd definitely be valuable.
Okay.
I think there's even, as our main topic of Amazon, there's ways that missionaries could do that from overseas.
Oh, for sure.
You don't have to be in.
Yeah, they could do online arbitrage and use a prep center and all that for sure. And they're doing it. Just looking for, like, this is something unique I've heard people doing stuff like this, but.
Exactly. I definitely think there's something. I think you're onto something there, though, for different brand names.
Yeah.
Did you say your sister and brother-in-law?
My brother-in-law and sister, my wife's sister, and then her husband run the orphanage. Yeah. And so they just know what American products sell, because they can go to their stores and see, like, whoa, it's way more here. And I know I can buy that back in Dallas for this price. So there's profit there.
That's right.
Interesting. I mean, they don't have the time to run a shop or have a resale business, but somebody else could potentially.
Sure.
So, wow. That's so cool. Well, what advice would you give people just starting out? You've been doing this, I 15 months, hit your $1 million mark, which is incredible again, by the way. Just talk to the people who are wanting to be where you are. Encourage them.
Sure. I mean, I'll start out with a discouragement of it's not easy.
Right.
But as long as you stay focused and are determined, I think I've hammered this home many times today, but find what you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
And stick to that.
Yeah.
We all struggle with this, I think, as humans, but I think what really helped us grow in a year was we remained focused on what we enjoyed. We knew what our numbers were.
Yeah.
And we just dug down deep in one thing, and we're not worried about what other sellers are doing.
Oh, that's good right there.
It's easy for me to say, look at your business and say, man, I want what Ryan has. Look at him.
Yeah.
I that's where I want to be. But you've been doing this for how much longer?
Yeah.
I mean, years and years longer. So I can't have right now what you have. You already put in the time. You need to put in the time, and you need to be patient. And you don't need to look what other people are doing or selling, but focus on what you're doing and you're selling, and grow that step by step. Never, ever look at somebody else, because the grass is always greener. You're always going to, jealous might not be the right word, but you're a little bit jealous of somebody else's success, but
sure.
but make sure to think about that is they've put in that time, they've put in that work, and that's why they're seeing their fruits of their labor.
Exactly.
We're starting to see the fruits of our labor just after a year, but we're not happy with that. We still need to implement more strategies or refine different things that we're doing to increase ROI, increase profits a little bit, and keep going. We need to hire more people to work for us to be able to grow, because you can only do it. I can only do it myself to a certain point.
Sure.
Where there's only enough time in a day for me to only buy a certain amount of product.
Yeah.
But that's what's really, I think, helped us, is just not wanting what other people have. I bring up in my other group is I have the honor to know Diana Kinsey, I believe.
Yes.
You know her.
I do.
I have the honor to go and see her and her daughter at their warehouse all the time. And I could look around and I could steal ideas from her. I mean, it's basic arbitrage things that we all could find anyway, but I could definitely cheat the system and try to ramp up my sales. But I try to honor her and our daughter by not doing that, even if I see them. I won't steal their ideas or their products unless they tell me, hey, check this out, you need to go buy some of this for yourself, then I'll do it. So I honor that. I also just remain focused. I see their big operation, and my head starts to wander and think of all the success I could have, but that's only harms me sometimes.
Exactly.
I just need to be present.
Yes.
Focus step by step. You need to. My former boss always talked about it. Is to a baby always, you have to crawl, then you walk, and then you run. So I still think we're at the slow walking stage. Honestly. There's so much more potential out there for us and opportunity for us to be able to grow this. We're nowhere near where I think we can grow this.
That's awesome. Wow, I love it. You would probably succinctly just say, just run your own race, do your thing. That's awesome. I love that advice. Thank you, Joe. Thanks for being on. I love this. Just congrats on your success. And hey, anytime you want to come back on, you just let me know. Do it again and see where you are a year from now.
Sure, that would be great. I'd love to have lunch with you sometime.
Yes, of course. You just let me know. Would love it.
Area and pick your brain a little bit more.
For sure.
Give me tips and tricks to fix some things or adjust some things to help.
Let's do it, man. Appreciate you. Thank you so much.
It's sure. Thank you.
You've been listening to Streams of Income with self-help author Ryan Rieger. From right here in the Dallas Metroplex, Ryan teaches several entrepreneurial courses and group coaching programs to students all over the world. Be sure to listen next week at the same time for Streams of Income with Ryan Rieger.